So I want to ask you a question. Have you ever spent hours or maybe even days mapping out this meticulous, absolutely airtight plan?
Oh, I think we all have.
Right, like maybe it's a 3-week international vacation or a massive home renovation
Or
project.
even, a brand new side hustle that you are just determined to
Yeah.
launch.
Yes, exactly. And deep down in your bones that you were never actually going to execute it.
Yeah.
Like you have 45 browser tabs open, you've got a color-coded project management board, a full list of supplies.
You feel incredibly productive.
You really do.
Yeah.
But if you are being, brutally honest with yourself, that project is never leaving your laptop.
It's the elaborate simulation, perfectly disguised as productivity. I
Yeah.
mean, it is a deeply human, incredibly common behavior
You really is.
because you get to experience the entire intellectual thrill of the activity, right?
Yeah.
The problem solving, the organization, the vision.
But with zero of the actual vulnerability or commitment required to do it in the real world.
Exactly. Zero friction.
So our mission for today's deep dive is to unpack exactly why that phenomenon, which feels so intensely satisfying in the moment, is actually often a sprawling psychological trap.
Yeah, it's a trap we fall into without even realizing it.
Right. And to do this, we are examining a really fascinating essay by Roberta Hill. It was published in April 2026 on the platform Wander After 70.
That's like a great piece.
It is. The piece is titled The High Cost of Beautifully Disguised Avoidance. And while Hill frames her experience entirely around the world of travel, the underlying psychology she exposes applies to almost every area of our lives.
Yeah, any area where we substitute preparation for action, really.
For sure. And the premise she outlines is just highly relatable.
It really is. Hill notes that over the past year, she simply wasn't traveling as much as she normally does.
Right.
However, the energy she usually dedicated to exploring new places, it just didn't dissipate. She didn't, use that time to rest or pick up a different hobby.
No. Instead, she took all of that kinetic travel energy and redirected it entirely into the act of planning travel.
Yes. And she calls it a soft, respectable version of travel.
I love that phrase.
Right. And what's fascinating here is how society generally applauds this behavior.
Oh, absolutely. Like if you casually mention at a dinner party that you spent your entire Sunday organizing a complex multi-city itinerary on a spreadsheet.
People think you're remarkably put together. They admire your foresight.
Yeah, nobody looks at that and says, wow, you are deeply avoiding your life right now.
No, because on the surface, it just looks like responsible adulting.
Right.
But Hill dissects the mutation of this habit so well. She realizes that she isn't engaging in this planning because it's a mandatory, tedious chore.
No, she is doing it because the frictionless satisfaction of organizing the data has become, well, highly addictive.
Exactly. She is creating what she eventually identifies as phantom itineraries.
Phantom itineraries. And these phantom itineraries are where the behavior starts to look a little absurd.
A little absurd. I'd say very absurd.
Fair enough. I mean, she catches herself building out trips that make absolutely no logical sense.
Not at all.
She isn't planning a trip for next summer. She isn't planning for the year after.
She's not even placing these plans in that polite someday category we all keep around for emotional support when we're having a bad day at work.
Right. She is treating these hypothetical trips as immediate, pressing realities.
And she dives so deep into the logistical weeds. She is mapping out specific driving routes down to the mile, comparing multiple flight options across different airline alliances. She is even creating elaborate backup plans for transit delays that will literally never occur.
Because the primary trip itself does not exist.
Exactly.
My absolute favorite detail she shares, though, is when she finds herself making hotel shortlists.
Oh, the hotel notes.
Yes, she isn't just picking a neighborhood. She is attaching hyper-specific notes to these hypothetical hotels.
Right. She writes down things like good pillows with a question mark.
A question mark. She's sitting in her living room, intensely concerned about the next support she might receive on a Tuesday 3 years from now in a city she has no tickets to visit.
It really highlights the sheer depth of the delusion.
Yeah.
I mean, she uses a passing thought about South America as the perfect case study for this.
Oh yeah, walk us through that.
Well, the thought, South America again, why not, just crosses her mind. And within minutes, that fleeting thought triggers a full-blown logistical operation.
Just immediately down the rabbit hole.
Right. She's researching flights, mapping out point strategies, looking at airport hotels. And she doesn't just plan a singular trip.
No, she plans out an entire multiverse of this trip.
Exactly. What to do if she has 3 extra days, what to cut if she has 2 less days.
She essentially becomes a one-woman travel agency working overtime for a client who has absolutely no intention of ever showing up.
That is exactly what it is.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I actually want to push back on Hill's conclusion here for a second.
Oh, really? Go for it.
Yeah, I am struggling to see the actual downside. I mean, if you are even vaguely considering a trip to South America, isn't doing the legwork in advance just smart risk mitigation?
I see where you're going.
Like, you are banking valuable knowledge. You are finding the logistical pitfalls, the bad hotels, the awkward flight connections long before they can actually ruin a real vacation.
Sure.
So isn't that just a highly effective way to relieve anxiety? Why are we framing rigorous preparation as a psychological trap?
Well, that is a very fair defense, and honestly, it is exactly the justification the brain uses to keep the habit going.
Okay.
Preparation is a vital part of any successful endeavor, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But the trap lies in the neurological mechanism at play here.
The dopamine.
Exactly. We have to look at how the brain processes reward, specifically through dopamine. Dopamine is often misunderstood as the reward chemical, like a prize you get at the end.
Right.
But it is actually the anticipation and motivation chemical. It spikes when we are on the hunt, when we are solving a puzzle, and when we are bringing order to chaos.
Okay, so when she is figuring out the perfect flight connection, her brain is giving her the exact same chemical reward as if she were actually doing something meaningful.
Precisely. She is getting a massive dopamine hit from the act of problem solving itself.
Wow.
But here is the critical distinction. She is doing it in a completely sterile, simulated environment. Real-world execution is messy.
Oh, definitely.
Right. If you actually go to South America, you might lose your luggage. You might get food poisoning. You might feel profoundly lonely or overwhelmed by a language barrier. Reality is full of friction.
But in a spreadsheet.
In a spreadsheet, the weather's always perfect, the flights are always on time, and the pillows are always good.
The spreadsheet never loses your passport.
Exactly. The brain is incredibly efficient, sometimes to a fault. It realizes, wait a minute, I can get the entire neurochemical reward of accomplishing a complex goal without having to endure any of the anxiety, physical fatigue, or risk of failure associated with actually doing it.
That makes so much sense.
So the preparation stops being a tool to facilitate the experience. The preparation becomes the experience. The brain prefers the simulation because the simulation is safe.
Wow, okay, that entirely shifts my perspective. When you frame it as a safe simulation, the illusion of productivity really shatters.
It does.
It actually makes me think of a totally different scenario. Imagine you decide you want to get into woodworking.
Okay.
You spend a whole month building the ultimate hyper-organized workbench in your garage. You install custom pegboards, perfectly labeled drawers, specialized overhead lighting.
Oh, the dream setup.
The dream setup. You spend thousands of dollars on tools and arrange them by size. You feel exhausted but incredibly accomplished.
Naturally.
But then, you never actually use that workbench to build a single chair. You just stand in the garage admiring the potential of the tools. You've constructed the entire infrastructure of a hobby, but you possess none of the substance.
That analogy perfectly captures the essence of beautifully disguised avoidance.
Yeah.
And for you listening right now, think about your own life. Think about the browser tabs you have open.
Right. Are you endlessly researching the perfect running shoes, analyzing your foot strike, and reading reviews of moisture-wicking socks?
Or are you actually going outside and running? Are you building the workbench or are you building the chair?
But Tillman points out that this isn't just a quirky, harmless mental exercise, right? Like, if it were just doing a crossword puzzle, it wouldn't matter.
No, it wouldn't.
The narrative takes a turn when she reveals that this beautifully disguised avoidance actually starts to come with a literal, tangible cost. It bleeds out of the spreadsheet and into her bank account.
Yes, she categorizes this phase as expensive daydreaming.
Expensive daydreaming.
Because to keep the simulation feeling real, the brain requires higher stakes. Hill admits that she starts actually booking components of these phantom itineraries.
She books real hotels for fake trips.
She does.
But she rationalizes it by saying she only books things that are fully cancelable. She tells herself she's just holding a room just in case she suddenly decides to manifest this South American journey next Tuesday.
But as she astutely observes, there is no case. The trip is not happening. And because the trip isn't real, it lacks the gravitational pull of a real commitment. Inevitably, everyday life takes over. She gets distracted by work or family, or simply by planning a different fake trip to Japan.
Of course.
And she forgets to cancel.
The polite little cancellation deadlines quietly pass her by, And suddenly, she is getting charged for a one-night stay at an airport hotel in a city she is thousands of miles away from.
Yeah, she knows that these charges aren't catastrophic. She isn't bankrupting herself with these mistakes, but they are persistent and they are incredibly annoying.
Oh, I bet.
They serve as physical, financial evidence of her avoidance. She describes her situation with this wonderfully dry humor, stating that she is essentially funding the hospitality industry through forgetfulness.
Funding the hospitality industry through forgetfulness. That phrase is going to stick with me forever.
So good.
It really perfectly illustrates how a harmless coping mechanism transforms into a liability. But Hill doesn't just isolate this as a personal quirk. She connects her own behavior to a massive modern cultural phenomenon.
She does.
She takes aim at the modern cult of travel optimization.
And this is where her essay broadens its scope significantly. Because over the last decade, an entire subculture has emerged that treats travel not as an experience to be savored, but as an algorithm to be beaten.
Yes.
It is an ecosystem obsessed with maximizing every single granular detail of a trip.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the goal within this subculture has entirely shifted away from the actual destination.
Exactly.
The goal is the optimization itself. It's about securing the absolute maximum value for the absolute minimum cost. And the complexity required to achieve that is staggering.
It really is.
Yeah.
For those who might not be deep into this world, let's define what we're actually talking about here.
Yeah, let's break it down.
This culture revolves around leveraging complex systems. People obsess over airline alliances, which are partnerships between global airlines where you can earn points on one carrier and spend them on another.
Right.
And it often requires Byzantine calculations to find the loopholes.
Right. Or they utilize things like positioning flights, which sounds incredibly technical, but it basically means you want to fly from your hometown to Paris, but the direct flight is too expensive.
So what do?
So you book a cheap separate flight to a random city like Chicago purely to position yourself to catch a mistake fare flight to Paris.
Which is wild.
It adds hours of travel, multiple layovers, and immense stress, all just to save a specific percentage on the ticket.
And then there are partner awards where you are transferring credit card points to an obscure foreign airline's loyalty program just to book a domestic flight on a partner airline.
Right, because the redemption chart happens to have a sweet spot that saves you 10,000 points.
Exactly. It requires maintaining a mental database of transfer ratios, blackout dates, and constantly changing corporate policies.
You know, it reminds me exactly of extreme couponing, but applied to life experiences.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. You know the phenomenon where someone spends 40 hours a week organizing massive physical binders of grocery coupons? They cross-reference weekly circulars with manufacturer rebates so they can walk into a store and buy 300 bottles of mustard for 12 cents.
Right.
The thrill for that person is entirely in the math. The high comes from beating the system and watching the register total drop to zero.
Yep.
It is completely disconnected from whether they actually want, need, or could ever possibly consume 300 bottles of mustard.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Hill is forcing herself to look in the mirror and ask a deeply uncomfortable question.
Yeah.
And by extension, she is asking the reader to do the same. She asks, if you spent 10 solid hours of your life figuring out a convoluted routing to save $300 on a flight, did you actually win?
Oof.
Or did you just give yourself a very well-structured, highly convincing way to stay busy?
Did you win, or did you just invent a job for yourself? That is heavy.
It is.
Because we all value our time, right? We constantly complain that we never have enough of it, yet we will willingly burn a weekend optimizing a spreadsheet to save an amount of money we could have earned just by working a few extra hours.
Or simply by valuing our free time at more than $30 an hour.
Right.
She realizes that the quiet, insidious belief driving her is the idea that perfection is just one adjustment away. If she just refines the plan a little more, finds one slightly better flight routing, discovers one slightly better hotel point redemption, she will have achieved something deeply meaningful.
But the stark reality she eventually accepts is that she hasn't achieved an experience at all.
No.
What she has actually built is a very elegant spreadsheet in her head.
And an elegant spreadsheet that she cannot actually live inside of.
Precisely.
And she identifies the psychological void that this behavior rushes to fill. When she stepped back from active travel, a vacuum opened up in her life. The time and mental bandwidth she used to spend navigating airports and exploring cities was suddenly empty. But nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human mind.
An idle mind will find a way to occupy itself.
Always.
So instead of filling that space with a new experience, it gets filled with the idea of the old experience.
Well,
The phantom itineraries expand to fill whatever time is allotted to them.
it mutates into unpaid, self-assigned busy work. And busy work is the ultimate defense mechanism against the terrifying prospect of open, unstructured time.
Wow.
It is avoidance masquerading as ambition. You convince yourself you are moving forward while you're actually just running on a beautifully optimized treadmill.
Okay, so we have thoroughly diagnosed the disease. We have an innocent hobby that mutates into an expanding, unpaid part-time job, which occasionally slaps you with a forgetfulness tax for a hotel room in a city you never intended to visit.
Exactly.
The obvious next step is the cure. So what does this all mean for daily application? How do we stop the endless spreadsheet in our heads? How do we unplug ourselves from the matrix of phantom planning and force ourselves back into the friction of reality?
Well, to her immense credit, Hill doesn't just leave the reader hanging with a depressing diagnosis.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, she outlines a strict system to dismantle the habit. She establishes a set of pragmatic rules designed to draw a firm line in the sand and force herself to confront reality.
And her rules are remarkably straightforward, which is probably why they work.
Definitely.
Rule number 1 is the horizon limit. She decrees that if she realistically will not take a specific trip within the next 2 years, she absolutely forbids herself from building it out fully.
That's a great rule.
Right, like she can have the passing thought, she can acknowledge the desire to go to South America, but she is not allowed to open the mental spreadsheet. No looking at flights, no researching hotels.
2 years is a tangible, comprehensible horizon for the human brain.
Yeah.
Anything beyond a 2-year window isn't a plan, it is a fantasy.
Yeah.
By cutting off the research phase for distant ideas, she starves the dopamine loop. She denies her brain the easy reward of simulated achievement.
And then rule number 2 is entirely designed to dismantle the financial trap.
The forgetfulness tax.
Exactly. If she does decide to book something cancelable for a trip that actually passes the 2-year rule, the absolute final cancellation date goes into her calendar immediately.
Right that very second.
Right that very second. There are no exceptions, no telling herself she will remember it later. She cuts off the forgetfulness tax at the source.
But the most crucial boundary she establishes isn't logistical at all. It's an internal psychological tripwire.
Oh, tell me about that.
She trains herself to consciously notice the exact moment her brain crosses the quiet line from "this is an enjoyable bit of daydreaming" to "this is a substitute for actually living my life."
That is the hardest part, isn't it? Recognizing the shift in real time.
It really is.
Because for you listening right now, you might not care about airline miles or hotel points at all. Your beautifully disguised avoidance might look completely different.
Exactly.
You might be endlessly planning a career pivot. You might be reading every single business book on the market, listening to entrepreneurship podcasts, and drafting a 50-page business plan.
But you refuse to actually register the LLC or send an email to a potential client.
Right.
Or consider the fitness realm. How many people spend 3 months researching optimal macronutrient splits, comparing the biomechanics of different weightlifting shoes, and watching form videos on the internet?
So many people.
Right. Without ever actually stepping foot inside a gym to lift a single weight.
Yes. The preparation feels like progress, but it is just another elegant spreadsheet.
Exactly.
So how do we apply Hill's boundaries to those scenarios?
Well, this raises an important question about how we fundamentally define progress in the modern information-rich age. True critical thinking isn't just about your ability to optimize data or find the most mathematically efficient path.
No, it's not.
It is about taking a brutal step back and evaluating why you're gathering the data in the first place. Are you preparing for the arena, or are you actively avoiding stepping into it?
Wow.
Hill's ultimate realization is that planning is not experiencing.
Planning is not experiencing.
It can mimic the experience. It can prepare you for the experience. And a reasonable amount of planning will certainly enhance the final outcome.
Sure.
But the preparation can never replace the tactile reality of doing the thing.
Right.
If you are researching a career pivot, the research is necessary to build a foundation. But reading a chapter in a book does not carry the same weight or offer the same growth as the terrifying vulnerability of sending a cold email to a new industry contact.
It's totally different.
We have to learn to recognize the exact moment when our preparation has secretly weaponized itself into procrastination.
Because if she is going to spend her incredibly limited time on this earth doing something, Hill writes that she would prefer it involves actually going somewhere.
Yes.
She wants the messy, unpredictable reality over the sterile, perfect simulation. And her closing thought in the essay is just phenomenal.
Oh, I love this part.
She says she wants to go somewhere, even if that somewhere is just out the door and into the day I already have.
It is a profound sentiment. It is a direct challenge to stop living in a highly optimized, purely hypothetical future and to return to the messy reality of the present moment.
So, to bring it all together for you listening, we've explored how the completely innocent joy of research and preparation can slowly mutate into beautifully disguised avoidance.
We really have.
We've looked at the neurological trap of optimizing your life just to stay busy and generate easy dopamine.
Yeah.
We discussed the dangers of extreme couponing your own life experiences and how to set firm, practical boundaries so you stop paying a literal forgetfulness tax on plans you are never actually going to execute.
Which is key.
The overarching takeaway here is that your time, and especially your mental energy, are the most valuable, finite resources you possess. You have to ensure that your meticulous research is actually serving your real life and not quietly replacing it.
Beautifully said. And if I could leave you with one final thought to mull over, building on the foundation Hill has laid out.
Please do.
We know that our brains are incredibly eager, almost desperate at times, to fill the empty spaces of our lives with meticulously constructed, totally imaginary futures.
Right.
So ask yourself, what vibrant, unpredictable, and profoundly beautiful details of your actual present reality are you entirely blind to, simply because you are too busy staring at the elegant spreadsheets inside your head?
Are you just going to keep building the perfect workbench, or are you going to pick up a hammer and finally build something real? It's time to close the phantom itinerary, step away from the simulation, go out the door and into the day you already have.